Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Make sure to like and subscribe to the channel for more interesting stories like these. Now, let's get into today's story video.
My 27 male, wife, 27 female, cheated on me a little over a year ago. I tried to make it work. Is it time to stop? Hello there, everyone. I'm at my wit's end and don't think I can go on living effectively while being made to feel like there's something wrong with me. Settle in, this is going to be a long one. Any advice or direction would be much welcomed, thank you. Jay, as we'll name her, and I met 2 years ago in Texas. I was on a 5-day business trip in a town 3.5 hours away. We met and by the end of the night, I knew she was the one. The sight in her eye, and subsequently her words, confirmed her feelings. We dated for 4 months before deciding to elope. We attempted to be as realistic as possible, recognizing that a brief vetting process, if you will, does not usually end well. We relocated from Texas to the West Coast approximately 2 months after our wedding because I was assigned to a new job. She quit hers, and we were both convinced she would find meaningful work in our new location. We bought a little house and started making it our own. My new job didn't go smoothly at first. It was really different from what I had expected, and I struggled. I wasn't in the mood to make new friends with my new employees or neighbors. All I needed was my wife. We are the best of friends. But, at the time, we were the only friends we had. Because my employment was not going well, I grew a little withdrawn. I'd go home from work, spend some time with Jay, and then watch TV, read a book, or play a video game. She'd prepare supper, and I'd sometimes assist or just hang around in the kitchen with her. I was more frequently than not doing my own thing elsewhere in the home. All things considered, we looked to be doing well. I quit smoking cigarettes before we married. During this period, I resurrected the habit and attempted to conceal it from her. That didn't last long since she's the brightest lady I know. For the most part, this is how things go for a while. A little bit about us: my wife has been depressed for a long time. It may be devastating at times, and she had mentioned suicide attempts before I met her. Both she and I are quite introverted and avoid confrontation. I, too, have been diagnosed with depression, but my experience is much more complicated than hers. Regardless, I made every effort to understand and encourage her despair and spirit. Let's fast forward 6 months. I was used to waking up before her, and this Saturday morning was no exception. In the morning, I awoke and performed some mundane tasks before sitting down on the sofa to watch anything. My wife awoke shortly after and came over to sit next to me on the sofa. I questioned after seeing a huge, dried blood smear on the thigh region of her sweatpants. She removed her trousers, revealing many serious, self-inflicted scars. She'd been severing her own skin. She did it the night before, in the next room, when I was awake. I noticed she was in the shower for a longer period of time than usual, but I put it up to her need to relax. She expressed her dissatisfaction with me. That I had been tense and distant since starting the new work, and that she was quite upset. She was certain that I was aware of what I was doing and that it was malicious. I should add you that our life has never been a problem for us. We had at least once a day. It slowed down a little during this era, but it was never lacking, and none of us has ever voiced dissatisfaction in that regard. To be honest, I acknowledged to being withdrawn and not as present as I should have been. I said that it had been really difficult to establish stable foundation, newly married, new work, new location, but I admitted that this was not an excuse. The cuts on her leg were all I needed to wake up, and I chastised myself for not being more awake or noticing sooner. Around this time, I began to observe oddities in her behavior and her use of her mobile phone. I am a firm believer in privacy and trust, therefore I never contemplated searching through her phone or communication. Over the following 2 months, I eventually inquired about who it was after numerous bizarre late-night messages and uncomfortable covering of the phone screen. It was her former closest buddy, a girl, she claimed. The contact name on the texts corroborated this. It was a girl's name I knew from her tales and social media. Fast forward another 3 months, and it's now been 4 months since her sadness and self-harm were revealed. We sought couples treatment as well as individual psychiatric counseling throughout this period. I'll never forget the day my favorite sports ball team won my favorite sports ball title. I was overjoyed. For some reason, I was especially conscious of her covert messaging this night. So, when a chance arose, I decided to take a look. What I discovered shocked me. There were texts to her female buddy about anything from trivial matters to and her telling this girl that she was her soulmate. Only I could tell from the context of the conversations that the person she was messaging was not a female. So I begged her, plainly shaken, to tell me the truth. The guy she was speaking with was an ex-boyfriend from high school whom she hadn't seen in person in 7 years. I've forgotten a lot about that night since it completely flipped my life upside down. The next month, she intended to return home to assist her mother in caring for her mother for a few days after a minor operation. She said that she may meet up with him simply to check in and catch up. Given what I had seen, I urged her not to see him. She was unyielding. The week she was supposed to return home arrived, and that was the plan. We watched one of our favorite musical acts in a place we so wanted to visit, and then she boarded a plane to see her mother. That week, while she was gone, I felt the most crippling, infuriating, and perplexing insecurity I'd ever had. Also that week, I learned out I was about to lose my job. She was supposed to meet with him the day before she flew back to me, which was a Wednesday. I didn't hear anything from her that day. Given the sensitivity of the situation with this ex and the recent news regarding my employment, I had heard from her less than I would have liked. I drank a bottle of wine that night. I'm not a big drinker. I seldom do. However, one bottle transformed into almost 3. And before I realized it, my mind had taken a detour. I couldn't control my urges and felt dread, worry, and uncertainty like I'd never felt before. It's as if I sensed something bad was about to happen and my decision-making process went crazy. It was almost 11 p.m. and I still hadn't heard from her. At this point, I was in a full-fledged tailspin. I was certain that everything I had ever known was incorrect. I wanted to commit suicide. I attempted to phone her and inform her that I was in danger, that I had already slashed myself, and that I thought I was in trouble. But she responded angrily. She didn't return my calls after that. Soon later, 2 uniformed police officers arrived at my home door to transport me to the hospital. I checked in the morning and discovered that she would not be traveling back that day, as planned. 4 days later, she returned home, and we began conversing. During these conversations, I inquired as to what she and her ex had done. They simply hung around and went to the zoo. They were completely platonic. After probing some holes in her story, I discovered that they kissed and held hands. After some investigation, I discovered that she had him contact the police to have her suicidal husband transported to the hospital, and then proceeded to have with her ex as the scenario on my end was happening. I can't put into words how deceived I feel. She said that she wanted divorce and to be divorced. I was in shock, to be honest, and I didn't take any of this well. I sought to negotiate at the risk of my dignity. I told her she could keep talking to him and even offered we explore an open relationship if she so desired. I also pleaded with her to remain since she was the only friend I had in this area of the nation at the time. I still believed in what I felt with her, and I was determined not to let our marriage collapse. For the following several months, we had some kind of this preliminary agreement. It was difficult. We had a good relationship and still had great, but it was difficult. She remained, but the existence of this person, that circumstance, and my concern about it finally led us to the conclusion that the situation was unsustainable. I was leaving this work after the new year, and she had applied for and been hired in a different city. We were going to attempt separation as a last resort before throwing up the towel. We planned to spend New Year's Eve in a distant city as a kind of final gasp. To be honest, it was a fantastic vacation. It was romantic, thrilling, and adorable all at the same time. We went out to a nice dinner one night while we were there, and we both dressed to the nines. I discovered soon after that she was sending nude images to this ex as she was getting ready that night, on the final vacation we'd do together. We had spoken about it, and she promised she wouldn't share any naked images. I was trying to savor these final minutes with a lady I knew I'd miss for the rest of my life, and she was doing the same. She has subsequently relocated to the new city. Her ex-boyfriend beat up another female in their hometown and cut my wife off, claiming he needed to be there for his other lover. I had to leave because I couldn't live in the home any longer. It made me want to commit suicide. I obtained a new work in a place that allows for simple aircraft travel to her. As well as a not-too-bad road journey if plane tickets are too expensive. She vehemently rejected my pleas to live within the same metropolitan area. We've been in our new places for 10 months and have seen each other once a month on average. Objectively, our relationship is significantly better than it was a year ago. But I'm not sure whether attempting to make things work is the best solution anymore. We have a great time when we see one another. We are extremely similar in so many ways. I'm constantly reminded of why we decided to be together. I continue to support her financially in a variety of ways. When we're away, though, she tries to avoid me as much as possible. She can be frighteningly aloof at times, and aggressively dismisses me at others. We are still legally married and have not filed any papers to begin the process of separating or divorcing. I last saw her 3 weeks ago, and we have plans for New Year's Eve, but we could get together between now and then. When I attempt to make polite and well thought out pleas to her about my problems, namely the 2 described above, She chastises me for being insecure and untrusting. That is most likely to occur. What I went through as a result of her, on the other hand, was completely terrible. I'm talking about the kind of devastating experience that makes you doubt your own existence and sanity. I have deliberately worked and continue to work on trusting her. But she keeps doing things that raise red flags or make me question my attempts to trust her. She is back at home with her mum this week. She has informed me that she hasn't talked with this ex since he cut her off, though a part of me feels she may have said that to divert my ire. I haven't heard from her in a while, and nothing with a timestamp after 6 p.m. When I attempted to contact her last night, I received an automated voice saying this number is temporarily unavailable. There were no problems when I attempted to call the following day. Throughout it all, I've lost my bearings. I'm hanging on to this connection with her because I believe it's so meaningful and she's so unique that I can't justify tossing it all go. I've had significant relationships and experienced true heartbreak. But, at this point, I can't ethically justify calling it quits, no matter how much anguish it gives me or how much it slows my own development. Since we eloped, everything in my life seemed to have altered radically. Most of the time, I'm not sure what's up or down. I'm sad and less confident than I've ever been. She's been the one consistency in my life throughout this upheaval, and I'm starting to wonder if that's part of the issue. We don't have any children, and our combined expenses are easily met. I'm asking for advice on whether we should cut our losses and give up. I'm simply worried I'll live with regret for the rest of my life. If you've made it this far, edit, I've decided to divorce her. I'm at a loss for words.